Namaskar friends, this is NJ, your host on this channel. So friends, in this video we will have our discussion on the placement of Saturn in your D9 chart or the Navamsa chart. So if you have a knowledge of the Vedic astrology, you must be knowing the importance of these two participating players. Talking about the D9 chart, which is the chart of your fortune, your marriage, and Saturn, which in itself represents your maturity, karma, your work ethics. Just because Saturn is responsible for the delays as well. I couldn't tell you friends, like this actually becomes like a nemesis for an astrologer. When people who are supposed to have a mega success, they are destined to have a very good successful matrimonial life. The only concern is that they are not able to digest that divinity or the divine has written something else for them, specifically on the basis of the timelines. You are destined to have a very successful marriage and a matrimonial life, but at the age of, let's say 40, let's say 38, and just because you are 25, you are 26, everyone around you is getting married and you are very like in that panicking stage, and then you book your reading with an astrologer. Then imagine what can an astrologer do? So that is the only reason friends, I just thought about that we can have our discussion on this topic as well, that when it comes down to knowing the importance of Saturn in the D9 chart. Like the way I always say this thing, Saturn never denies the marriage. Saturn denies the illusion of the marriage. That when you see those Bollywood movies and you see actor and actress dancing around the tree, marriage is all about that gala song and experience. So I mean to say, the kind of reality, the reality check which Saturn brings to you. Are you ready to handle the hardship which comes through marriage? Because obviously planets like Venus, Mercury, Moon, Jupiter just talks about, I'm going to get married to someone who is nice to me. But Saturn ensures that even if the person is not nice to me, but I will still shoulder the responsibility. So I mean to say, Saturn represents that, and understanding Saturn's placement is very important for every astrology enthusiast. And friends, I remember, I'll just give you a short anecdote, then we will shift over today's discussion. I remember when I was very young, and that time I did not formally initiated into astrology, but I have been a Lord Shiva devotee throughout my life, and I always have had that interest in the Tantra, in the Aghoris and all of that. So I remember once we had a Vastu visit in our home. So the Vastu expert was a very senior guy, and somehow I got a chance to talk to him in private when no one was around. So I just asked him, when you are very young, filled with questions, and like all around you is that knowledge of Tantra, Aghora, these things. I asked him, sir, I have heard about that Aghoris have this power that they can grant you anything. They can bring those supernatural miracles. They can make the rain happen. Is that true? So to which he gave me a very surprising reply. See, I don't claim any accountability, authenticity, credibility of that. But he told me, Nipun, for example, what any Aghori or supernatural person can do is, whatever the God has written in your fate, like in your fate, you have been sent in this earth with a written destiny that you will have a mega achievement at the age of 36. Okay, and now at the age of mid-20s, you cannot handle the life's failures, life's pressure, competitiveness. You found a very Siddha Purusha and you started just crying in front of him, grant me something, give me something, my life is failure, I'm about to commit suicide. So what that enlightened person can do is that he can move around the timeline of your life. Like something which was supposed to happen in your life, that good mega auspicious event at the age of 36, he can shift the timeline of that to the age of 25 because you are after the life of that Siddha Purusha. Now I don't claim any credibility of this story, this version, but yeah, that's just reminded me of this thing, that especially when we are dealing with Saturn friends, so delays, disappointments is something which is everyone's cry story. And I always say, Saturn needs to be understood through service and Rahu and Ketu through spirituality. Only if you are patient, with the divine timing, with Saturn, I can assure you that you will never ever complain, because the beauty of the Saturn is that it takes time, but when you have passed the test, you have endured the hardship, and when it grants you something as a reward of your patience, of your hardship, that is something which you retain with you for long. It's not like something which is temporary and volatile, which you have got and again it will slip out of your hand. This is something which you have earned and you will retain it. So yes friends, we will try to look at all aspect of it. I have my notes ready, so I will switch to the narration part. I also feel comfortable with this format because then I do not have to worry about the pronunciation and the other aspect. I can just primarily focus on my notes and can give you the narration. So let's switch to that, and we will try to look at all aspect of the planet Saturn from a karmic point of view, from a spiritual point of view, the hardship and the lessons which will come to you in marriage, because marriage is not only about Venus or Jupiter or moon. Marriage is about the duties, responsibilities as well, which is Saturn. So that we will try to understand, and how the life can change if there is a variation in the dignity of the Saturn compared to the ascendant chart to the D9 chart. So we will look at the all aspect of it. So okay friends, now after this we will switch to the narration part of our today's discussion. So friends, it becomes important to understand that the Navamsa is not merely a marriage chart, it is the chart of the dharma maturity, past life samskaras and the quality of blessings that survive time. Like a lot of the times when the predictions fail in the D1 chart, the ascendant chart, why we get the answers from the D9 chart? Because it is the ripe karma which we see from the D9 chart. Because your ascendant chart is just the synopsis of the kind of the prarabdha karma with which you are born, but the kriyaman and the intent and the motivation, the level of the consciousness. So D9 chart actually plays a very significant role. Like what is the kind of the drive and the soul level motivation which drives the life of a person. So because of which friends, it is a very important chart, and understanding the placement of Saturn in this chart becomes very important. Like the way we say that all the enlightened saints and people who have achieved extraordinary things, they have passed the test and trials of the life, all the struggle and the hardship. So Saturn's placement in this chart tells about that. So in short, D1 chart just tells about it shows what happens, and the Navamsa, the D9 chart, shows why it happens and how long it lasts. So Saturn in the D9 is therefore not a chart about the denial, it is about initiation. So in D9, Saturn represents unfinished vows, delayed merit, and souls that must earn the joy rather than receiving it casually. So the core philosophy or Saturn in Navamsa is that marriage is karmic, not romantic. Planets like Moon, Mercury, Jupiter, Venus, these planets they create attraction. They are very likable planets, like all that which any couple in the courtship deals with, like all the pampering, all the like compliments, they represent that. But we know that like the reality of any relationship is not only about giving compliments to each other. It has also to do with when one person has fallen sick, how the other person takes care of that person. When one person has fallen into bankruptcy, how the other person stays with that partner. So all of that we see from the Saturn, and this is how Saturn tests you. See friends, it's a very horrible example to add over here, but this happened once in France. Like couple of years back, this news came where this lady, she was molested by a list, like number of people, and somehow her husband used to drug her, and he was the conspirator for that. So I mean to say, whatever punishment, whatever struggle, hardship you deal with in any specific area of the life, and just because we're talking about D9, so relationship, and what could be the obstacle in the blessing, what could be the hardship in the fortune. So because of that, understanding Saturn becomes very important. So Saturn in the D9 signifies marriage is karmic, not romantic. Fortune comes after endurance. Love matures through responsibility, not chemistry. Spiritual progress occurs through acceptance, discipline, and humility. So if Venus gives desire, Saturn gives permission after qualification. So now friends, see, if Saturn in D9 and the marriage karma, so what is the truth about it? So like the way I mentioned at the beginning in the introduction, that Saturn in the D9 never denies the marriage, it denies the illusion about the marriage. Marriage is not only about the bed of the roses. And the typical patterns which you will see, that it can delay until emotional maturity. See, that is a term which we generally use. We generally use for the Cancer Lagna and the Leo Lagna, because in their case, opposite to them in the 7th house, there is a zodiac sign being ruled by the planet Saturn, Capricorn and the Aquarius. But in majority of the cases, if in any capacity Saturn is having a say, influence, a grip over the attributes of your marriage, then emotional maturity is very important before you enter into the matrimonial bonds. So the typical pattern of the Saturn in D9 and the marriage karma is marriage after Saturn Mahadasha or the transit. Partner could be older, serious, wounded. So when I say wounded, that means someone who have had in the first half of the life some major setback, like you get married to a person who has already lost his spouse, partner, to a widow or widower. So many things. So partner could be older, serious, wounded, or karmically bound. So marriage becomes the life training, in short. If afflicted, so if Saturn in the D9 chart is afflicted, we will talk about all the combinations. So if afflicted, emotional coldness, loneliness inside the marriage, duty without affection. And if dignified, if it is dignified, so loyalty, stability, respect-based love, and marriage survives the crisis which others cannot. So Saturn in the D9, and what information do you get to know about the fortune, the bhagya? So in Navamsa, fortune is not luck, it is stored merit. Saturn here indicates fortune activates after responsibility. Wealth follows ethical restraint. Success comes slowly but permanently. So Saturn does not block the fortune. Saturn blocks unearned fortune. Now friends, when we talk about what could be the blockage or what could be the blessing, because we know that when Saturn is happy and Saturn is hard bent on giving you something, it opens the doors like anything, like multiple opportunities, mega success. People who become and they reach the peak of their field, are the masses favorite, are somehow being governed by the planet Saturn. So talking about what could be the blockage indicator versus the blessing indicator, how to diagnose it. So first talking about the blockage indicators. So obviously if Saturn is afflicted by Rahu or Ketu in the D9 chart, Saturn is in the enemy Navamsa. Saturn in the Navamsa chart is in the Cancer, in the Leo. Saturn is retrograde in the ascendant chart, and the weak Venus. Venus is also weak. Or Saturn could be in the 6th house, 8th house, or the 12th house in the D9 chart. So then this could result in repeating heartbreaks, like the spouse could be very cold, could be sickly spouse, delayed prosperity, chronic dissatisfaction. Now what could be the blessing indicator? If obviously Saturn is going to be in the own sign in the Navamsa, exalted in the Navamsa, aspecting the D9 Lagna or the Venus. So friends, when we talk about the aspect, we know that Saturn has got like 3rd aspect, 7th aspect, 10th aspect. So the aspect rule will be used the same way in the D9 chart, the way you use it in the ascendant. So if the blessing indicator is Saturn aspecting the D9 Lagna or the Venus, Saturn is sitting with Jupiter or the moon, or Saturn is strong. So we say that the result could be marriage that will improve with time. You could be late bloomer in terms of the wealth. There will be very spiritual, platonic partnership as well. Apart from fulfilling all of your matrimonial duties, responsibility and all, but there will be a spiritual bond as well with each other, where both the people in the relationship couple will push each other for their spiritual merits as well. And we know that Saturn is responsible for the longevity of the relationship. Now friends, talking about like Saturn's placement in the D9 chart, if I need to give you just a summary of it. So if Saturn in the D9 chart is in the Aries or the Leo Navamsa, it talks about that ego might be crushed before the stability, or marriage will humble the leadership karma, like you might be a boss or might have that authoritative mindset, you might be doing good in your career, like very bossy, but marriage will humble you, your partner will humble you. And we say that the fortune will come after the surrender, if it is like the Taurus or the Libra Navamsa. So we say that the marriage is duty bound but loyal. Financial karma improves after the marriage. Your financial state will definitely improve after the marriage. And Venus and the Saturn, we know this thing that maturity is required before you enter into the matrimonial bond. If it is Gemini and the Aquarius, your Saturn in the D9 is in the Gemini or the Aquarius, we say there could be a mental distance in the relationship, intellectual or very karmic marriage, a fortune which will come through network or the service. If your Saturn in the D9 chart is in the Cancer or the Pisces Navamsa, it talks about emotional heaviness in the marriage, like caretaking spouse karma. So one of the partner might have health issue and the other is looking after it, nursing it, and liberation through compassion. Now if your Saturn in the D9 chart is in the Scorpio Navamsa, that tells about the past life betrayal karma, intense transformation via marriage. Now again, if in the D9 chart your Saturn is in the Scorpio, but the D9 chart's first house lord, the seventh lord, individually Venus, the Dara Karaka, they all are well placed. So this transformation will be very constructive, productive and very prosperous. And there could be either total breakdown or the rebirth after the marriage. The Capricorn Navamsa, if Saturn in the Navamsa is in the Capricorn, so that means highest Saturn maturity, marriage after responsibility, slow but unshakable fortune. Now friends, that also becomes very important to know that when we talk about the suffering versus the release, like the Saturn's typical threshold, like Saturn can open two doors. So the door one is the door of the resistance, where many people say this thing, why me God, why I have got such a bad marriage, dominating partner, or there could be comparison with others, there could be the signs of escapism, that you're not learning the lesson. Saturn is sending a typical kind of people in your life in the relationship and you're not learning the lesson, you're just escaping it. Or there could be blame. So the resistance generally comes that when you will hear people saying why me, or they're comparing themselves, escaping or blaming. So this leads to prolonged suffering. This actually makes things more troublesome. And the door 2, option 2 could be of the acceptance, which is about owning your karma, doing the service without any bitterness, being very disciplined in the love, and the spiritual grounding. So this leads to liberation. Now friends, like if you want to know that, before we will switch our discussion to Saturn's D9 placement in all the houses, that how to break the Saturn cycle. So what could be the behavioral remedy? So the behavioral remedy is commit even when the comfort is absent. So even if you're not getting that level of comforts and compatibility with your partner, but still you have to commit yourself. Stop seeking the validation in the relationship and serve without expecting return. See friends, if you are spiritually know about this thing, that we all are in our individual journey. So even within a family, if a father is committing some sins to bring money and feed the family, so it's the sole bread earner of the family only who has to endure the consequence of that sin. We all are in our own spiritual, all alone soul level journey. So that's what you have to understand, that even if your partner is not treating you well, you have to do your job in a right, efficient way with proper ethics and dharma, righteousness. The spiritual discipline, if you have to break the Saturn cycle, so the spiritual discipline is about the Maun Vrata, like silence vow of silence, at least on Saturday, speaking less, like seva, service to the elderly, to the laborers, to the disabled people, meditation on the impermanence, like the Buddhist meditation and all. The mantra, we know that this Om Sham Shanashcharai Namaha, you can do that. The marriage remedy is that the delay marriage, like, a delayed marriage is much better rather than marrying someone who's wrong, not compatible with you. And obviously choosing the character over the charm, and respect the timing of the Saturn. The divine timing is very, very important. You have to understand that, and just do not get swayed away by the desires of the Venus. So okay friends, after this, now let's briefly look at that if you want to understand Saturn's placement in different houses in the D9 chart. So this discussion is all about the marriage karma, fortune maturity, and suffering versus stability. So in D9 friends, houses do not behave like D1, so they show where the dharma matures through time, not the events. Okay, so if you have to understand Saturn's placement in the first house in the D9 charts, Lagna, so the core theme could be the marriage will reshape your identity. Native might become older in spirit after the marriage. Marriage feels like responsibility, not romance. Often late marriage or spouse will become the life teacher of this person. What could be the encapsulated suffering? So there might be those periods of loneliness and emotional dryness. You cannot expect, if your Saturn is in the first house of the D9 chart, you cannot expect marriage to be all the time bed of roses and fancy dinners and all. There might be those periods of loneliness and the emotional dryness. The blessing is going to be immense dignity and spiritual authority with this placement of Saturn in the first house. So strong and immense dignity and spiritual authority. What could be the release key for you? So stop seeking the softness and develop inner stability. Now friends, if you have to understand Saturn's placement in the second house of the D9 chart, so the core theme for you is family karma repayment. So marriage binds the native into karmic family duties. Like this could be a case that you get married to a spouse where in the family there is a lot of the ancestral paternal dispute going on, or some sort of allegation dispute going on. So whatever fate has brought to you, now you have to accept that. You do not have to fight with it. So marriage binds the native into karmic family duties. Financial stability comes slowly but stays. Speech become restrained, truthful, and serious. So what could be the suffering for you? So financial pressure post marriage, it has been seen. The blessing for you is that wealth will come, but only after demonstrating discipline and restraint. What could be the release key for you? Ethical money handling and doing the seva of the family. Now friends, Saturn's placement in the third house of the D9 chart. So the core theme is with this placement about communication karma in the marriage. So that means there might be those period of like long gaps with the spouse, silence or distance, like which generally happens when your partner is in the defense, in the military, he has been posted, or there might be some reasons. So yes, and the marriage survives through effort, not ease. What could be the suffering, friends? So emotional disconnect might be a concern. What could be the blessing for you? Mature companionship, but over time. What could be the release key for you? Conscious communication and patience. Now, if your Saturn is going to be placed in the fourth house of the D9 chart, so what is going to be the core theme? It has got more to do with the inner emotional debt. That means there might be emotional coldness in the domestic life, or there could be some caretaking karma towards spouse or the family. So like sickly spouse or the health concern of the spouse, and the other person has to take care of it, like the way in the previous slides and all we have discussed, that you cannot escape it, you cannot blame it, you cannot say why me God. So caretaking karma towards spouse or the family. The suffering is lack of emotional warmth. Blessing could be peace through simplicity, and the release key is going to be detachment from emotional expectations. Now friends, if we were to talk about Saturn's placement in the 5th house, so the core theme is going to be about the past life romance karma. So that means like love and your intentions in the love will be tested. There might be concerns of the delayed childbirth, or the native might experience and have to go through creative blocks. Now the marriage will mature through responsibility, not purely by the passion. So the suffering could be for this person is about feeling unloved, but the blessing is going to be wise children, legacy karma. Now the release key for this placement is obviously there has to be discipline in the pleasure and restraint of the ego. Ego restraint is very important. Now friends, talking about Saturn's placement in the 6th house in the D9 chart. So the core theme over here is marriage as the karmic service. That means spouse may be ill, health concern to the spouse, burdened or dependent. Like marriage becomes like a duty, problem solving or the endurance. So in short, the suffering with this placement of Saturn is constant obligations. The blessing with this placement of Saturn is karmic cleansing through seva. Whatever seva you do, you exhaust, you burn your karmas. And the release key for you is selfless service without resentment. That is the key for you. Now friends, Saturn's placement in the 7th house. So the core theme is marriage contract of fate. Now delayed but very binding marriage. Spouse could be serious, slightly older, but for sure is going to be disciplined. So now friends, the suffering for you could be that there might be emotional distance early on in the relationship. The blessing for you with this placement of Saturn is about loyalty. You might find a very and get a very loyal partner. The marriage will stand the test of the time. There will be longevity. The release key for you is obviously respect over romance. Respecting your partner, respecting your spouse, respecting the institution of the marriage. Saturn in the 8th house in the D9 chart. So friends, the core theme is about past life marital trauma. Now again, when I say that past life marital trauma, then you have to see the overall alignment of the D9 chart. Ascendant Lord, 7th Lord, individually Dara Karak, individually Venus. Then you can come to a conclusion. That is the only reason, friends. Astrology is not just the one single formula does not work in astrology. It has to be seen in combination, and then over and above, on the top of it, it's the intuition of the astrologer. So yes, with Saturn's placement in the 8th house in the D9 chart, it has to do with the past life marital trauma, where there might be the flavors of intense fear of betrayal or abandonment, and marriage will transform the soul deeply. Now what could be the suffering with this placement of Saturn in the 8th house of the D9 chart? Control issues, emotional fear. What could be the blessing? Profound spiritual rebirth, and the release key, surrender. We say the shadow work. That is very much the release key for this person. Now friends, talking about Saturn's placement in the 9th house of the D9 chart, what could be the core theme for this person? So dharma will be tested. Dharma tested through the spouse. That means spouse will reshape the belief system of this person. Fortune might be delayed until the moral clarity has not been gained. So fortune delayed until moral clarity. The suffering with this placement of the Saturn in the 9th house in the D9 chart comes through loss of faith initially. The blessing comes through higher wisdom and a very spiritual righteous marriage. And the release key with this placement is humility before the dharma. Now friends, talking about Saturn's placement in the 10th house of the D9 chart. So what could be the core theme? See, it talks more about marriage being tied to the public duty, like a very career focused marriage. But the good thing is that the status will improve after the marriage. So we keep on coming across those people who are like very much clear right from their early days that they want to get married to a very career oriented person, very successful person. So these are among those kind of combinations. Now, what could be the suffering with this combination? Work over intimacy. So everything comes with a cost. This is what you chose and this is what you will get. Now don't complain later on that my partner, my spouse always like prioritize work, and the only thing which is governing his mind is work even over the personal intimacy, because this is what comes as a byproduct with this placement of Saturn. The blessing is authority and the recognition. What could be the release key for this placement is about balance, the ambition and the relationship. Now friends, Saturn's placement in the 11th house of the D9 chart. So what could be the core theme? So this could talk about delayed gains and stable networks. So marriage will bring the gains but slowly, and there might be very friendship based partnership. So generally when we talk about the suffering which could come with this placement, it has more to do with the delayed fulfillment. The blessing has more to do with the long term prosperity. And the release key for this placement for the native is detachment from the quick rewards. Now friends, talking about Saturn's placement in the 12th house. So the core theme of this placement is moksha marriage karma. That means there might be emotional isolation or long distance marriage. The spiritual bond will be much stronger than the physical bond. So the suffering which comes with this placement of Saturn in the D9 in the 12th house is about loneliness. The blessing comes in the form of the liberation or the detachment, and the release key for this person is spiritual practice and the surrender. So friends, this is where most astrologers fail, that you have to understand the contradiction which comes with Saturn's placement in the D9 chart versus Saturn's placement in the D1 chart. So for example, if Saturn is strong in the D1 but weak in D9, so that tells about that. Okay, let me put it out again. Saturn strong in D1 but it is weak in D9. So it will talk about career success, public respect, but there might be unhappy marriage. So external success but internal dissatisfaction. And let's take up another case. If you will find Saturn to be weak in D1 but stronger in the D9, so that talks about struggles, early life, late marriage but deep fulfillment later, delayed joy but permanent peace. So friends, you would have understood that eventually, ultimately, the final truth is Saturn delays to prevent karmic mistakes. Saturn in D9 never destroys, it matures. So marriage under Saturn is not exciting. It is filled with accountability, responsibility, and it is indestructible. So Venus gives pleasure, Saturn gives permanence, Navamsa decides which one survives. So yes friends, this is something which I wanted to say as a part of my inputs. Once again, thanks a lot for watching this video, and for further more updates and notification on the divine science of Vedic astrology, please subscribe to my YouTube channel and follow me on my Instagram account. धन्यवाद.